For an alien movie to succeed, the aliens must be godlike beings beyond our comprehension, arousing a sense of wonder, or monsters bent on conquering, experimenting, consuming. Often, they are both. But what makes Close Encounters of the Third Kind remarkable in film history is that its aliens are meant to be loved, trusted, and marveled at, even though they do monstrous things. The film actually combines 3 different genres: mystery,
Where's the pilot? I don't understand.
horror with the aliens as the monsters, and comedy adventure with the aliens as a kind of prize at the end of a quest.
You see that?
Oh, yes.
Good.
This combination can feel dissonant at times, but it is ultimately able to work because each genre is kept separate by centering on different characters with separate plot arcs. At the beginning, the film begins as a kind of mystery, centering on the scientist Lacombe, who is a kind of detective putting together clues that suggest Earth has been visited by something that we cannot explain. But the film soon graduates to the territory of welterweight horror, with the story of Gillian Guyler and her son, Barry. The limbic nightmare of monsters breaking into a family home and taking a child, which is basically the worst thing that can happen to a parent. A my life is over level of tragedy. And if these 2 plots were taken by themselves, they would make a fairly straightforward horror film. But with the addition of a 3rd plot, with Roy Neary at the center, Close Encounters becomes very complex emotionally. Roy Neary is a power company lineman who has a close encounter with a mysterious craft, and he becomes obsessed with UFOs and, more strangely, finds himself compulsively creating a mysterious shape out of everyday objects, like shaving cream and mashed potatoes. It's supposed to be funny, and it is. The only problem is that his family does not share our perspective. They are frightened by Roy's behavior. So while in the first act of the film, Roy is very much meant to be comedy relief, with everything that he does being at least slightly absurd, by the second act, Roy has become genuinely tragic. His wife finds him in the shower, fully clothed, not understanding his own behavior, feeling like he is going insane.
I don't think I know what's happening to me.
This scene is genuinely moving, and it taps into a core horror, which is on a level with Gillian's story. Because not only is Roy afraid of losing his sanity and not being able to control himself, but like Gillian, he also loses his children.
Ronnie,
Yes.
I'm really scared. I want you to help me.
Oh,
Ronnie.
all this bull. It's turning his house upside down.
Ronnie, just...
I just hate you this way.
Ronnie,
No!
Ronnie.
Instead of trying to help Roy, his wife packs up the kids and leaves. And he may not know it yet, but Roy will never see his wife or children again. And the strange thing is that Spielberg still wants us to laugh. These scenes feel like a comedy, with Roy jumping on the car and throwing rocks and shrubs in a window to create a giant model of the mysterious object, which turns out to be Devil's Tower in Wyoming. We are still supposed to be laughing as Roy drives to Wyoming. Even the final contact with the aliens is part trepidation and part gag. In a final move that might seem a bit unexpected, Roy decides to get on the alien mothership and leave Earth probably forever. The film's score makes it clear that this is meant to be a moment of triumph. So while there is still a lot of mystery about who the aliens are and where they came from, there is no more horror. It is all adventure, the ultimate exploration of other worlds and other states of being. Yet, I've always found it hard to be happy at the end of Close Encounters. This spur-of-the-moment decision to leave Earth just doesn't feel quite right. And in fact, decades after the film was made, Spielberg himself acknowledged that as an older man and more mature father, he would never do what Roy did. He would never leave his children, and he would not make Close Encounters the same way today.
In 1997, I would never make Close Encounters the way I made it in 1977, because I have a family that I would never leave. I would never drive my family out of house and home and build a papier-mâché mountain in the den and then further leave them to get on a spaceship, perhaps never to return to them. I mean, that was just the privileges of youth.
But even if we were, theoretically, to remake the film, with Roy staying on Earth and reuniting with his family, that would still not solve all of the strange dissonances of the film. Because we still have the problem of the aliens being presented as both horrifying monsters, but also, at the end, as friends, to be welcomed and joined. Richard Dreyfuss, who had a close working relationship with Spielberg and starred in Close Encounters, claimed that the film was the first major Hollywood attempt to say that we should not be afraid of extraterrestrials.
The biggest reason, aside from wanting to work with Steven again, was that I felt, as did everybody, we all felt that this particular project had a noble agenda. This was a big idea that Steven was talking about. It wasn't just a sci-fi movie, and it wasn't just about monsters from the id, and it wasn't this. It was that we are not only not alone, but that we have relatively little to fear. People don't realize, or it's hard for people to remember, that Close Encounters was truly the first cultural, iconic moment that said, calm down, we're okay, they can be our friends. That really was a huge statement, and I, along with lots of other people, wanted to participate in it.
Yeah, don't worry, they'll just break into your house and take your children. There's nothing to worry about. You'll get them back later. It's basically free childcare. Yeah, this is a pretty audacious expectation for the audience. But this is precisely what makes Close Encounters valuable as a piece of art. The film is not telling us that we should welcome aliens because they are friendly Santa Claus visitors, or enlightened Buddhas, or transcendently righteous saints. They commit genuine crimes against human beings, and are genuinely intimidating. Even if they have good intentions, they do genuinely harm us. The men of Flight 19 had families and relationships that suffered here on Earth, probably immensely because the aliens abducted them. Not to mention Roy Neary's inner agony because of the alien telepathy. You cannot excuse the abduction of Barry. You could only, maybe, forgive it. And that is what the film is trying to say. Despite the things they do, we should trust them. The moment when Barry opens the door and is engulfed in light is, according to Spielberg, a symbolic moment. In this kind of frightening situation where the mother is trying to keep the monsters out of the house, only a child would open the door for them.
When I wrote it in the script, for me that was very symbolic of what only a child can do, is to trust the light. You know, open a door when an adult would run and hide and say, don't open the door, lock the door. There's things outside we don't understand, things that could kill us or change us. But the optimism of childhood and opening that door, and light being the presence of everything. Light is the inclusion of all colors, whereas black is the absence of all colors. That light was something that that boy wanted to know more about. And so for me, thematically, Close Encounters is all about children opening doors onto beautiful sources of light.
But the interesting thing about that is that if light contains symbolically all things, it presumably contains dangerous things, which, if the thesis of the film is taken to its logical conclusion, are still to be trusted.
These people have come from all over their country
dans un endroit dont on leur a dit qu'il était dangereux pour leur vie.
to a place they have been told will endanger their lives.
Only children and adults who become like children are capable of this radical kind of trust. And we have to be careful to make a very important qualification, namely, that when we talk about childlike trust, we are not talking about the naivete that is easily fooled because it believes everything equally. Rather, we are talking about the ability to judge character quickly.
Some of the grown-ups on the set were frightened of him because of his stature, basically, but to kids, he was like, you know, children have that ability to just look at somebody and tell if they're friendly and if they're kid-friendly, and they knew right away, and he was like the Pied Piper.
What we are really talking about is what Chesterton called the ability to guess right, or said another way, a real power of seeing things suddenly, as they actually are, not apparently reached by any process, and not necessarily able to explain how you came to the truth. It is still trust because it lacks exhaustive explanation, but it is wise because it is right.
There's nothing wrong with the air.
Qu'est-ce qui vous fait dire ça?
What makes you say that? I just know. There's nothing wrong with it.
So we can think of the three cyclical genres of Close Encounters as corresponding to the classical division of the human self into logos, pathos, and ethos, head, stomach, and heart, or reason, survival, and intuition. While a philosopher like Plato argued at length that reason should rule the rest of the self, Close Encounters argues that the courage, love, and intuitions of the heart should overrule our fears and doubts. And I think it is only to be expected that a film that makes this kind of argument would present outcomes that the audience might find questionable. And in fact, outcomes that we should question. Two things can be true at the same time. And in Close Encounters, we see that the impulses of the heart lead one man to do a wrong thing by leaving Earth and leaving his family, while also leading many to do the right thing, which is to be courageous. We cannot underestimate the importance of this attitude, that whatever bad thing might be out there, theoretical or actual, however fallible the good intentions of others, and whatever pain might happen, however deep the suffering, it's all worth it. So long as I am going into marvelous light and out of darkness.